Did you know you can make your own plant-based Worcestershire sauce? You can, and it is so good. Welcome to my kitchen. My name is Felicia Slattery, and we are making homemade, plant-based, or vegan Worcestershire sauce. All right, right here in my cookbook, the Plant-Based Slow Cooker Cookbook, I have in the back section a whole chapter of bonus recipes that are not made in the slow cooker, but they are plant-based basics. Now, I was looking today at my Worcestershire sauce, and there's one ingredient in my Worcestershire sauce that I don't have, and so I thought I'd share with you just kind of a little bit of a hack to kind of marry a couple of recipes together. So, the problem with Worcestershire sauce, if you want to eat plant-based or vegan, is that Worcestershire sauce has anchovies in it. And so if you're really trying to avoid all animal products altogether, then Worcestershire sauce, traditionally made, is off the menu. But we still love those flavors of Worcestershire sauce in so many different things. In fact, it's one of the star ingredients in my mama's meatless winning chili. So I use Worcestershire sauce for a seasoning all the time. And so I ran out and I thought, you know what? I'm going to make some and I'm going to show you how to do it too. But then I was like, oh no, one of the ingredients in my Worcestershire sauce is a plant-based fish sauce. Well, that's another video for another day. But there's a easy way to get that fish and umami flavor from fish sauce into your Worcestershire sauce. So let's do it. All right, so first of all, we are going to start with a cup of apple cider vinegar. And this is kind of the star of the show. The main bit of this of your Worcestershire sauce is apple cider vinegar. So we're just going to pour a cup of that into a small saucepan. And I'm just going to prep everything right here, and then I'll put it over there, and we're going to let it reduce. Now, the next thing we need is a 1/4 cup of liquid aminos, coconut aminos, tamari, soy sauce, light soy sauce, like whatever you got that's in that family. You know what I'm saying? Coconut aminos, any of those things. I happen to be using this particular brand of liquid aminos that I'm sure lots of people are familiar with. All right, so I've got that in there, and already I'm getting this, really interesting kind of Worcestershire-ish flavor. All right, so let's look at the next ingredient. You know, there's a little bit of sweetness. So we're going to add just a couple tablespoons of maple syrup. You could also use date syrup if you happen to have date syrup. That's something else that I make homemade that I happen to be out of at the moment. So I'm just using a regular old 100% pure maple syrup as my little bit of sweetener in this Worcestershire sauce. All right, so I'm too excited. I got to tell you the next thing. So typically at this point, I'd be adding a couple of tablespoons of my plant-based fish sauce, which I happen to be fresh out of. So I don't have any of that, but what I do have are the couple of main ingredients that go into that plant-based fish sauce, and that is a shiitake mushroom. These are dried, you hear that? Dried shiitake mushrooms. So I'm just going to pop that right into, I think I'm going to use 2 of these today. Pop that right into the saucepan. And so that's going to give us that deep, earthy kind of umami flavor that is so familiar when we have Worcestershire sauce. And then this is kombu or kelp. That's different ways of saying kelp. And so it's just a long sheet of seaweed is all it is. And so when you get it, you see some of this white stuff on there? That's not mold. That's salt from the ocean. So that's where the flavor of that anchovy that we're not using in here because we're doing plant-based. So kelp is fantastic. Seaweed is a great ingredient. And I'm just tearing this so that it will fit into my pot. And it's hard. You can hear it. It's kind of crunchy. And it's going to reconstitute in here. And it's going to give our Worcestershire sauce that fishy, of the sea flavor without adding any fish. And actually adding some amazing minerals that are found only in seaweed. Yay, how cool is that, right? So this I got at my local Asian market. So if you have an Asian market that you can go to get seaweed, great. If you've got another health food store, they may have kombu. You could use any kind of kelp you could use in here. Or you could buy it online. Anything that you want. I'll put a link to buying the exact kind that I use online in the description below. All right, so we've got now our seafoody flavors going on in there. Now let's season this up. All right, so the next thing is 1 teaspoon of ground ginger. I'm out of ground ginger. I haven't been to the grocery store in a little while. I've been busy working on a lot of stuff. So we just took my daughter back to college yesterday, and I did a book launch party. I've got another book launch party coming up. I got a birthday coming up. I got a lot going on. So I haven't been to the grocery store in a little while. So I'm just kind of digging through my pantry, like, what do I have so that I can make this, all right? And that's the thing. You want to think about how can you be creative in the kitchen. So this is me being creative in the kitchen. I happen to have dry ginger. And so that's how they make ground ginger, is they dry it and then they grind it into ginger powder. So I'm just doing it myself rather than buying it. Well, I will buy it in the grocery store because, as you can see, this takes a minute to do. So I'm just going to grate this using my very fine grater, and you can see it's kind of like snowing ginger, and it smells so good. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, I think I've got about a teaspoon in there. The next thing we're going to put in is some onion powder. And we need about a teaspoon of onion powder, and I'm just going to measure this in the palm of my hand. So in goes the onion powder. And then we need some ground cinnamon. So this is only a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And that'll do the trick. 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon right there. We need a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground pepper. That's probably about 7, 8, 9, 10 grinds. So that's where I am right there with my 10 grinds. Next we need allspice. So allspice, you can buy it pre-ground. I tend to want to buy my spices, especially if they come in seed form, like these allspice berries. I like to buy them whole, and then I grind them myself because I'm not always going to use a lot of allspice in my life. And so if that's going to be the case, then it's going to go bad before I have a chance to use it up. And I don't want that to happen. So I don't have to grind these very finely because we're going to strain this when we're done. But it's about 3 allspice berries. These couple of ones are small, so I'm going to add 1 more just for good measure. And I've got my little tiny mortar and pestle. Isn't that cute? So I'm just going to give them a quick little bash them up there so that they're broken into pieces. And in they go. So that's my allspice berries. And then I need some garlic, and this is a giant. Look at this clove of garlic. It's giant. So, and I don't have to do anything special with this garlic. I'm just gonna hit the side of it, right, so that the papery skin peels off. You just want to smash it, and it's kind of broken up now. And into the mix it goes. And I'm going to put this in my veggie broth bowl. Actually, I'm going to put it right into my veggie broth. I happen to be making some right now. Go watch that other video to see how I make homemade veggie broth out of just little scraps like you saw. And it's free every time, and it's amazing and delicious. Okay, the last thing I need is ground mustard, dry mustard, and it's a teaspoon of ground mustard. And again, I'm out. So I've got mustard seeds here. So I'm just going to do the same thing I did with my allspice berries and mustard seeds. If you've never seen them, they're very teeny, teeny, tiny little seeds. And I am just going to put them. They're about the size of quinoa. If you've seen quinoa grains before they're cooked, they're about that size. And I'm just going to grind these just a little bit. Again, we're going to strain this, so it doesn't have to be perfect. All right. So there we go. My mustard is all ground up. In it goes. And that is it. This is your Worcestershire sauce, the base of it. So I am going to just put this over here on my stove. And I am going to let it come to a boil. And once it comes to a boil, I'm going to cover it up. I'm I'm going to lower the temperature, and I'm going to let that kombu or that kelp and that the shiitake mushrooms that we put in there, I'm going to let them soften up a little bit and let them kind of cook for a while so that the essence, their flavor comes out into the sauce. And then I'm going to take the lid off and I'm going to reduce it just a little bit so that I can have a really delicious Worcestershire sauce. I'll show you that in just a little bit. By the way, while you wait, if you're new to this channel, welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you would, go ahead and like, comment on this video, and then also subscribe to the channel, especially if you love plant-based recipes and you're looking for more. Thanks. Okay, so we are back. Now, I have allowed this to boil down. Now, let me tell you first, when I was cooking it, I have to admit, I looked at it and I thought, that is not going to be enough. So I added a little bit more of everything. I 1.5 times the recipe. So there's going to be a little bit more in here. So all that's left to do now, this has cooled somewhat, but I just let it boil. I let it steep. And I just want to show you, here's the fork I used, what we have in here. So those mushrooms, those shiitake mushrooms that were hard as a rock, like they're regular mushrooms now. You can't hear them. And so, and then also that seaweed has given up its deliciousness in there. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to strain it and I'm going to put it in a bottle. All right, so just going to drain it out. Because remember, we had those allspice berries in there, and we have the garlic in there, and a few mustard seeds. So I'm just going to use my fork and kind of push out any liquid that's in here because that's all our sauce. So we definitely want our Worcestershire sauce in the bottle and not going down the drain because these are all now spent. Okay, here's our Worcestershire sauce all finished. I'll show you the close-up in just a second here. But we have one thing left to do. We've already strained it. We're going to discard those solids. And this is just a plain old glass bottle that I'm reuse, recycle. So this is a reused bottle. I just washed off the label. And this might have been, I don't know, a soy sauce bottle or something like that. But anyway, so it's a perfectly good glass bottle. And it's got one of these great little tips here that I'll be able to, it's hard to open with it, just like that. But there's one of these, see the little hole in there? So I'll be able to dip, dip, dip it out. So it's going to be perfect. And I'm just going to pour my homemade plant-based Worcestershire sauce right in the bottle. Now there's a little tiny bit of sediment, if that's the word, on the bottom. Because remember, we used fresh ground pepper and we used cinnamon in here and we had all kinds of stuff. So you don't necessarily want all of that if you don't want any of the kind of the gritty flavor, but mine filled up this bottle perfect. Okay, now I'm going to take a tiny taste of this. It's still a little warm, which is really kind of lovely. And I can see some of the spices on there. All right, let's see. Wow. That is a flavor explosion. I don't know the last time you tried to take Worcestershire sauce on a spoon, but it is delicious. It's strong, so I don't recommend doing it. You can see it's the perfect color of Worcestershire sauce, and I will have this bottle and use it in all of my recipes wherever Worcestershire sauce is needed, except this is my own, so I know exactly what's in it. It is homemade, it is plant-based, vegan, and perfect. I love it. I hope you make this. If you do, let me know in the comments, and I will see you on the next video. How do you say it? Worcestershire, 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 Worcestershire. However you say it, this is what it looks like. So I always put a little label, and my label is super old school. I use a Sharpie marker and some masking tape, and that's my fancy schmancy label. So whatever it is you call it, enjoy it, but make sure every time you use it, give it a good shake, because those spices and seasonings might settle to the bottom. So give it a good shake, 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 and then enjoy. Bye.